Goldenberg, Oscar-winning editor, now feature director. Sir, thank you so much for your time here. I really appreciate it.
Oh, nice to be here. Thank you.
Yeah, man. I'm really excited to talk to you about this for a multitude of different reasons. First and foremost, I want to start off with first project, obviously super important. There's a lot of consideration, I'm sure, that has to go into that. What was the number one driving force that made you say, this is the one that I'm going to make my feature directorial debut with?
Well, part of it was that I was ready. You know, it took a long time before I felt confident enough to tell a story on my own. But it was, you know, it was more just Anthony as a person, and his story was such a unique and inspirational one. And I just somehow I felt like I wanted my first feature to be something that could be uplifting, that could be inspirational. I felt really comfortable in the sort of sports genre, and I felt comfortable in the family drama genre. And Anthony was such an exceptional, or is such an exceptional person that I just instinctually I knew. I mean, I've relied on my instincts my whole career about what to take and how to cut, and you know, and my instincts told me that this is the one I have to do.
Yeah. Now, when you're getting to a point now where you have to hand this over to Brett M. Reed, your editor for this film, hands on, hands off, like what's the relationship like there with so much experience under your belt?
Well, fortunately for me, Brett is my ex-assistant. He worked for me for years and was my first assistant for I think 10 or 12 years, and he's, you know, I've known him since he was 22, and I think I don't even want to say how old he is, but I've known him for a long time. But you know, so I trained him, I guess, you know, so he knows my style, knows what I like, and I knew that he would be bluntly honest with me about things, that he wouldn't try and, like, you know, worry about my feelings, and that I wouldn't get my feelings hurt by hearing stuff that maybe wasn't working or that he didn't like. I wanted somebody to be really frank with me. There wasn't time to, you know, oh, it's going to be fine, or, you know, that kind of thing. If something wasn't going to work, I wanted to know. You know, I didn't want anybody to sugarcoat anything, and I knew we had the kind of relationship that he wouldn't have to, and we can speak freely with each other, and so it made the process so much more fun and so much easier. And he did a wonderful job. I mean, I actually did. I planned to do a lot more editing than I actually had to, because he had done such a good job with the film. You know, I did a little, but it was, you know, he like I said, he did a great job, and I was lucky to have him.
With all the great directors that you've worked with over the years, I imagine you probably reached out for advice from someone or another. Yes. Who gave you the best advice?
Well, they all gave me the best advice. It was different. You know, like I reached out to Michael Bay to talk about visual effects, because we have a lot of visual effects in the film. You know, more than anybody would think. And, you know, and it wasn't a very large budget movie, so I wanted to make sure we did it efficiently and cost effectively. And I reached out to Michael to find out, you know, tricks and tips, I guess. And then I, you know, talked to Paul Greengrass, and I talked to Catherine Bigelow, and obviously talked to Ben Affleck all the time, because he was a friend and he produced the film. And then some of it wasn't even reaching out to them. A lot of it actually was me just drawing on the things I had learned by working with them over the years. You know, I've been lucky enough to work with some extraordinary directors, see them on set as well as in the editing room, and I, you know, certain things that stuck with me over the years. I knew those were important lessons, and I was able to use them. Whether it be how to deal with actors or how to know what my important shots are, so I make the days and get to scenes, you know, get full scenes that I can, you know, edit, as opposed to getting a lot of great shots and not finishing, and like know what's important, know how to prioritize, and you know, camera style that you know, Catherine, Ben, and actually all of them, Catherine, Ben, Michael Mann, Paul Greengrass, you know, I kind of morphed a lot of those styles together and made it my own. You know, there was influenced by the way they shoot, especially Paul and Catherine, and and Ben in the Iranian footage in Argo. There's a lot of similarities in what I tried to do and what they did in those films.
Yeah, no, I can see a bit of that here as well, and I'm really excited to see obviously what you do in the future. But I want to hone in on those visual effects here for a minute, because I agree with you. When you have a slimmer budget, you have to be really, really smart, and it is seamless. I can admit that I never once thought to myself at any moment, oh, that's definitely a visual effect. Like, I just fully believed that he was missing a leg, and Jharrel is, on the track, and he's got other runners running past him, and his shorts are flopping in the wind, and I'm like, the shadows, and I'm like, how is the team doing this?
Well, it actually all started before that, which was getting Jharrel comfortable on crutches. He had to look like somebody who grew up his whole life on crutches, and I was able to use a movement coach who happens to be my wife, who is a movement coach and a former modern dancer, and she worked with Jharrel for months, 7 months, a couple hours a day. What we did is we took video of Anthony doing everything he does in his life. How does he hold a glass of water, go in and out of a door, getting in and out of bed, all those things. And then Allison took all those videos and taught Jharrel how to use the crutches like that. And she that was the starting off place. And I happen to know, I've worked in a lot of visual effects movies, so I knew a little bit about how to sort of do it. And then, fortunately, technology's advanced enough where we were able to do CG cloth, so his pant leg or his wrestling singlet hung down the way it should. And Anthony did a lot of his own wrestling in this film. They both did all the choreography, Anthony and Jharrel. And then with Jharrel, we were able to remove the leg. And then with Anthony, we used face replacements to make him look like Jharrel. And fortunately, the technology exists that we could do that pretty seamlessly. And then, there was hundreds of crowd shots that we had to do to make that look real. And, credit goes to the visual effects team, and they did an extraordinary job. And they cared so much, and they wanted it to be right as much as I did. It was there was something about this project, and I think it's all because of Anthony. What kind of person he is, and he was around all the time, and everybody got to meet him and hang with him, and I think it made everybody feel an extra little bit of they had to give a little extra bit of effort and care just a little bit more. I'm sure they all care tremendously, but it just felt like everybody was on a mission to get this right, and Brett and I are very, very good at picking apart visual effect shots to make them look real. So we did a lot of that.
I'm sure. One of the things, though, when it comes to directing is, there are directors who are very technical, who know everything about lenses and cameras and so on and so forth, and can operate the camera. There are directors who work specifically with the actors. One thing that you can't fake with visual effects is the performances from your actors here, and you get some really great performances, great character relationships out of everyone. You got a great ensemble of people you're working with. So tell me, when it comes to working with the actors, and you have a million things going through your mind on this project, I'm sure, more than anything you've ever worked on, but as an editor, I have to imagine that there is a perspective that you bring to it that's refreshing for them, because you're kind of already cutting the movie in your head, I imagine, as you're going, which a lot of directors will do obviously later, or maybe they have it storyboarded, but you get what I'm getting at here.
Yeah, I mean, there would be times where I would be like, why? A couple of the actors would say, maybe, why are we doing this? And it doesn't feel, it's like, I only need this small piece of it. I don't need, it's because of this cut that I want to do for this. And yes, I would always have the answer, certainly, to why I was doing any specific thing. So, and it allowed me, knowing sort of what I need to make a scene work, what good performances, where to put the camera. First of all, I prepped until I felt like I was so prepared that I could then deviate from the plan if I had to. That wouldn't feel panicky. It freed me up to be able to work with the actors and speak to the actors, because I would be working with DP setting a shot, and then he would like, well, why don't we do it here? And I go, well, that won't cut. The angle change isn't enough, or the size isn't different enough. And so that happens to me automatically at this point in my career. So so it allowed me the freedom to then to know that quickly, so I wouldn't sit there a long time thinking, what side of the line are we on? And is this going to match? So I was able to use that extra time to talk to the actors and get them into the right frame of mind, or tell them where they are in the film and what's happening to them subtextually, and it allowed me to the freedom to be able to concentrate on this sort of the performance element of it and the storytelling beats that I was going for, and so it really did serve me well to have that background.
What is the secret sauce to crafting a good montage?
That's a good question. Story, I think it's all story. It's like is you get a lot of images that. The answer to most questions about film is story. It's about knowing the story you're telling and what story each individual image is telling, and then it's your instinct how to put that all together and then make it feel like, where you get to at the end of that montage, the story has progressed both emotionally and just sort of, factually has progressed to a point. So it's not, oh, that was cool. Like, why was that there? It really, everything needs to have a reason. Every shot needs to tell a story, and those stories need to connect up and to tell a greater story. So I think that's the answer is like, you want to have, cool music and cool images, but it's got to be telling a story that pushes the film further, pushes the narrative along.
Yeah. And then one thing I was thinking about while watching this was, it's not a lot of mat wrestling movies, just in general. We don't see that in the sports drama world as much. I was thinking of Foxcatcher while I was watching this, but then I couldn't think of anything else off the top of my head. So my question to you is, why do you think we don't get that many mat wrestling stories?
I guess it's not like, it's not a tier one sports, sport thing. It's not, there's professional wrestling, obviously, but it's not this. And I think it's, it's not as big a sport. I think there is I've come to learn, a huge wrestling community. I mean, you go to these NCAA matches and there's 18,000 people every night and they're going crazy and they love every moment of it. And I've come to love it and had the opportunity to go to some of these events, and it's incredible. I can't really explain it. I mean, what's the Vision Quest is another one that was a big wrestling film, and there's a film called Win Win it's a good film, and I felt like I wasn't telling a wrestling story. I was telling a story about a mother and son who overcame these incredible challenges, and wrestling was part of the vehicle that was doing that. And but I wanted it to be authentic and exciting, and I felt like I could do that, and it would be unique. It wasn't, obviously, like you said, it wasn't. It's not a sport that is as familiar as basketball, football, boxing, that kind of thing. I don't know. I found it very compelling, wrestling. One of the first things I did was go to the NCAA finals in Cleveland. I think it was in 2018, and being down, I was able to sit right by the mat and next to Anthony, who was broadcasting, and it's a whole new world, and you're down there. And I thought, like, if I can get the audience down here on the mat, figuratively, then I know they'll find it exciting, and as exciting as I do. And I was just, a beginner as far as the sport goes when I first went, and it was so visceral and so psychological in terms of, like, you can almost tell who's going to win or lose the matches sometimes before the matches started, because you can see what's in their eyes, and I felt like if I could tell that emotional story and bring that across, I could really hook people. And fortunately, I think that I feel like we were successful. I feel like I had incredible help, from all kinds of wrestling experts. Anthony and his ex-coach at ASU, Brian Stith. They were my wrestling consultants during the film, so I knew whether I was getting it right or wrong because I had the real people there. everybody who in the wrestling community wanted to be a part of the film. They all love Anthony, wanted to do anything they could to support the film. And, I just wanted to live up to that. I wanted them to be proud and feel like I had done justice to their sport. And so far, the feedback has been good.
Yeah, I would say so. Well, William, congratulations once again. Now feature director. Can't wait to see what you do next.
Thank you.
Whether it's sports again, Western crime, I don't know.
I don't know.
And I'm just excited for you.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Take care.
Take care.